Have you ever noticed that the things which once excited you don't feel the same anymore? This is exactly where something called Anhedonia comes into play. When life loses its taste, most people explain it as, I have no joy, or I lack motivation. But sometimes it's not about motivation at all. Sometimes our brain's reward system quietly shuts down. And this is what we scientifically call anhedonia. 27-year-old Amy says, music used to be my escape. I would put on my headphones and disappear from the world. But now I don't feel anything. It's like the songs don't even reach me anymore. What Amy is describing is the very essence of anhedonia. Because anhedonia means no longer being able to enjoy the things that once brought you pleasure. Take socializing with friends, for example. 32-year-old John explains, they're laughing, having fun, and I'm just sitting there with them. But inside, there's not a single spark. It feels like I'm not even there. This is a perfect example of the social side of anhedonia, not being able to enjoy human connections. So, why does this happen? Science points to a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Dopamine plays a key role in our brain's reward and pleasure system. Normally, when we experience something enjoyable, dopamine is released and makes us think, yes, life feels good. But in anhedonia, this system doesn't work properly, which means it's not about being lazy or unmotivated, it's that the brain simply isn't sending the pleasure signals it should. Let's go a bit deeper. In our brain, there is a network we call the reward circuit. Eating delicious food, working out, listening to a favorite song, or sharing a good conversation. All of these are processed by regions such as the nucleus accumbens, prefrontal cortex, ventral tegmental area, and amygdala. Normally, these regions communicate with each other through dopamine. But in anhedonia, this communication is disrupted. The person still receives the stimulus, like the smell of coffee, but the brain doesn't process it as a reward. As a result, the feeling of pleasure doesn't occur. John's story about not enjoying conversations with friends is a direct reflection of this malfunction. The moment itself hasn't changed, but the way his brain responds has. When we look at the neurochemicals involved, dopamine is at the center of anhedonia. When it's lacking, or when its signaling is impaired, motivation and pleasure disappear. The mesolimbic dopamine pathway is particularly disrupted. Serotonin affects mood. Low serotonin levels can interfere with dopamine systems, further disrupting the reward mechanism. That's why SSRIs sometimes help relieve anhedonia. Endorphins are the body's natural feel-good chemicals. They're involved in things like the runner's high, physical touch, or sexual pleasure. When they're reduced, life feels flat. Norepinephrine is related to focus and motivation. When it's low, people constantly feel tired and unmotivated, which added to anhedonia. Scientific studies show that in brain scans of people experiencing anhedonia, the reward centers are noticeably less active. Sometimes dopamine is present, but the brain can't use it properly because it doesn't bind effectively to receptors. From a clinical perspective, in depression, anhedonia is one of the most prominent symptoms. In schizophrenia, it's at the core of negative symptoms. In Parkinson's disease, it's common because dopamine-producing cells are destroyed. But here's something very important. There is a way out. Amy, for example, started with small steps. I made myself go for a 10-minute walk every day. At first, I didn't feel a thing. But after a few weeks, I realized the sound of birds gave me a bit of peace. That was the moment I understood. feelings can come back. This shows us that anhedonia doesn't have to be permanent. The brain can rewire itself. Medication, therapy, exercise, healthy sleep, and social connections. All of these can slowly break through the numbness. Now let me ask you, when was the last time you truly felt joy? Maybe it was a long time ago. But the fact that you can remember it means it can come back, because your brain still holds that memory. So maybe today can be the day for a small step. Play a song you like. Text a friend. Go for a short walk outside. You might not feel a big rush of pleasure right away, but your brain will record these small actions. And with repetition, your reward system can wake up again. Remember this. Sometimes the colors of life fade, but the gray tones are never permanent. Bringing the colors back often starts with just one small step.